everyone, my name is REDRUP. You're listening to the It's Not a Phase podcast, and on this episode I'm joined by Daryl Pryor, who's an artist manager and the founder of Capital Artist Group. We talk about how he got into artist management from his former band, setting up Capital Artist Group, his time working with Rude Records, setting up Passion 8 Records, tips for those interested in artist management, and loads more. Now, if you enjoyed this or any other episode of the podcast and you want to show your support, there's a few ways that you can do that. Number one, leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to this. It takes just a few seconds and it really does help. Number two, share this on your social media, whether that be Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Or number three, if you want to go the extra mile, you can pay a little bit each month to join the Patreon, and in return you'll get access to episodes early along with some other perks, or you can pick up some merch from the store. All the links to that and the podcast socials where you can follow us can be found at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. And now with all that out of the way, let's jump right into this week's episode of It's Not a Phase. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me on this episode of It's Not a Phase, where I'm joined with Daryl Pryor, who is the founder of Capital Artist Group. How you doing, dude?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, all good. Thanks for taking the time out to speak with me about all things Capital Artist Group and, you know, what you do. And so let's just kind of start off with the very basics. Can you briefly explain for people listening what Capital Artist Group is and does?
Oh, that's a good one. It's definitely something that's changed over the years since we started. But I mean, now I kind of brand it as we're a multifaceted music company. I just find that's the easiest way to do it. We have for all, I guess, the kind of business people out there, the Capital Artist Group is kind of an umbrella company, and we have multiple companies kind of attached to Capital Artist Group. So we're a management company, we're a record label, and we're a publishing company. Right. All the separate entities under the Capital umbrella, so to speak. So yeah, I started management April 2015, from being in a band, being messed about, having, I guess, for lack of a better term, being shelved by a label. Just not a lot of things going our way, and a lot of, I guess, bad internal band decisions, a lot of just general bad decisions. And I guess a lot of things that looking back, I could have done a lot better. We could have done a lot better as a team. And I didn't want anyone to go through that. Having been through that and then getting to the end of the band cycle and being like, oh man, this really sucks. Like, what am I going to do now? All I knew for like 10 years was just playing in a band, touring, recording music, wanting to, quote unquote, make it as a super successful artist. And I didn't quite get there. So a big thing for me leaving that was, what do I do? Where do I fit in within this music industry, or do I leave it? Do I go get, a normal job and just live life and live for the weekends and all the rest of it? I just couldn't do it. So I just guinea pigged a local band that I thought were really cool. Just said, hey, I'm not doing band stuff anymore. Can I try and manage you? And for whatever reason, they said yes. It went okay. And 8 years later, here we are now. We manage a bunch of artists. We launched our label last month. We did a deal with the Orchard last year, which is kind of coming to fruition. So we're really, really excited to announce that. And then we're in the middle of finalizing our publishing company, where we'll be able to publish and do administrative rights for not only our artists on the label and management side, but, for anyone who's kind of needing for publishing with a super fair and easy deal. So it's a multitude of things. It's definitely having fingers in different pies and wearing many hats, but it's amazing. It's the best thing. Monday mornings are the best day of the week. As lame and cheesy as that is to say, like waking up early on a Monday morning, checking my emails, speaking to my artists, speaking to my team, having those meetings, like planning the week, planning the days. It's so fun, so rewarding, and it's just so cool to be a part of this industry. I'm going to be biased. I'm sure you will be too, but it's the best industry in the world, right? Like, we're here because we're passionate about it. And I think most people in the industry and the people and the artists and the labels and everyone are here because they're passionate about music and they love it. And I just think that's such a cool thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think this kind of industry, you have to be into music to actually be doing it for for a while anyway. Like, you know, if people just kind of jump into it because it's the cool thing, I don't think they really tend to last very long.
No, for sure. Yeah. I've met I wouldn't say fair share, but again, you know, you meet people along the way, you travel around, you network, and you do get to see a few people that kind of just like, oh, I took this job because the money was good and I knew a certain area of a certain market and I just do it and it's whatever. I don't enjoy going to the shows and I don't enjoy, you know, hanging out and meeting people after my working hours and stuff. And those people don't usually tend to last too long. You know, it's definitely obvious when there is that disparity. But yeah, I'm definitely not one of those and I don't plan to be anytime soon.
So yeah, you say, you know, you kind of jumped into this industry because you loved music so much and you're so passionate about music. So taking a few steps back, when you were younger, when did you first start getting like a love for music? What were like the first bands and albums that you really kind of adored?
Oh man, that's such a good question. I mean, right back when I was like 2 or 3, my dad was a drummer and he played in bands all the time. He signed record deals. He, again, a bit like me, was so close to making it. He lost out on a record deal to Iron Maiden. And
oh, wow.
They are now. Yeah. So, his kind of, not claim to fame, but his big story was like, he went for a meeting with this record label. So did Iron Maiden. They had one deal to give to my dad's band or Iron Maiden. They ended up giving the deal to Iron Maiden. The rest is history. So, I mean, you know, you looking at that, and that story was so cool to me growing up, and just going to watch him play just kind of inspired me. You know, when I was growing up to learn to play drums, he taught me, he gave me my first drum kit. And so, yeah, and he was always a rocker. You know, we were always listening to Nirvana and Motley Crue and Scorpions and Thin Lizzy and Def Leppard and, you know, all the big rock bands growing up. And then eventually I found Linkin Park and Slipknot and Limp Bizkit and did the whole new metal thing, and then took a big left turn into emo, then into hardcore, and now I just look at music. So it's definitely a family thing. My brother is the bassist in Employed to Serve. He's out doing it, still touring, living the dream. You know, he's just come off of a tour with Gajira. So it's definitely something that's ingrained in the family and has really influenced both me and my brother growing up.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's, you know, like you say, within the Pryor DNA, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, even my grandparents and great grandparents have all been musical, playing in bands and doing stuff. So it's just super fortunate I could keep time and hit things with sticks, and it kind of worked out. And now we get to do the other side of it. So I'm still not mad.
Yeah. Well, I think was the band you were in High Hopes, wasn't it? And
yeah,
you got signed to Victory at one point. You know, so you definitely like made some strides, more than most bands would have done.
Yeah, we did a few cool things. You know, I got to tour the US twice, go to Canada a couple of times, do Japan, China, UK, Europe a bunch of times. You know, we got to play like the garage and the underworld, and you know, tick some bucket list things off that I'd never thought I'd get to do outside of playing a local show. So it was really cool, but it never quite jumped over the hump. Yeah, just the way it is though. You know, you can never predict. You take the risks, and hey, we signed to Victory. We thought it was great, and then the A Day to Remember stuff came out, and our world came crashing down, as I think every other band on that label did at the time. But hey, you know, I wouldn't change it. So many great experiences, met so many cool people, and I'm here, you know, because of it. And somehow the lights are still on, and we have some staff, and I'd like to think that every band that we work with has something positive to say about what we're doing. And yeah, we're just here to help and have a good time while doing it.
So did you start taking a stab at artist management whilst in that band, like, you know, like managing yourselves? Was that where it kind of started?
Kind of. So I ended up, I guess, again, not by choice, but the responsibility within the band kind of fell on me. Just somebody had to do it, and I ended up just doing it. I didn't enjoy it at first, but then once you kind of got into a swing with it, working with our manager at the time, being that kind of, you know, go-to person. We need this, we need that. Can you organize this? And whenever we had touring opportunities, I did all the advancing, or, you know, ordering all the merch and just making sure everything was kind of ticking over. And it was weird once that band kind of petered out, because I didn't have that, and I didn't have that kind of project or that journey to go along in the music world. And I guess that's where transitioning into management was kind of easy, because it was doing the same thing but for someone else. And initially that was a big question I had, you know, like, was I just doing this because it was, you know, my baby, my band, the one thing that meant the most thing to me? but turns out to be I can do it for other bands, and I can get excited when the artist wins and they sell out shows and they get those big tour offers and they get the big publishing deals and all of these cool things that I wish, we were able to achieve. And when we get those things for some of our artists, it's just as amazing and affirming that it's just cool. I just really enjoy it.
Yeah. And do you think, having that personal experience of, being on the side of the band in those kind of conversations, retrospectively, if you look back at that now, do you think that experience has helped you when you have these conversations now as the artist manager working with your bands?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think, again, getting into why we're doing it, it's probably because it didn't work out for me. And there was a lot of, poor decisions, not just by the label's perspective or our agent or their old manager or me or the rest of the band. You just learn things like, next time I'm not going to do that. Or I wish we'd negotiated this in our deal. Or we should have taken this show rather than this show. And we should have been a bit more thoughtful about how we approached this situation. So again, it's one of those you kind of learn by failing to an extent. You can kind of lead the horse to water and all of that. And just, using a lot of the experiences where maybe I'd messed up or someone else had. And having that feeling of like, man, we fucked up. We could have done so much better. And just, pivoting and using that in my day-to-day workings and, mentoring some of our staff when things come up. It's like, nah, let's try this. I've been here before. This sucks. We do this. Maybe we try something else. And hopefully 99% of the time it works out. But,
yeah,
you can't control everything. But yeah, it's definitely something that I use on a day-to-day basis, just, trying to reflect back, like if I was in this band, what would I want to do? If it was my project, how would I approach it? Knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
It's definitely helpful.
Yeah. And, touching on what you said before about, making mistakes, I think, and this applies to anyone who's listening, whatever job, industry, I think for the most part, if you make a mistake, it's fine, provided you learn from said mistake. And so you don't make the same mistake again. As long as you've done that, you've learned from the mistake. I think that, isn't there a saying that's like failure is life's greatest teacher or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I think if you fail at the same thing 3 other times, you really need to step back and take a look at, what's going wrong and why. But if you really do get something wrong and you can see the obvious error, there's no better teacher than that. It really is. Like you get, man, probably, yeah, okay, next time I know definitely not to do.
Yeah.
Insert thing here. And again, it's the industry, it's ever changing. We don't get everything right. I don't think anyone gets everything right. But yeah, having those experiences definitely, helps, gives you a bit of a leg up, especially when you are on a collaborative call for whatever reason, or an emergency one, or something's happened. You can, wade in and be like, whoa, hold up, let's do this. I've been here before. I know how to navigate it.
So the band comes to an end. At what point then do you then start exploring artist management? Did you kind of join another management team first and kind of learn the ropes a little bit before you started Capital Artist Group?
Oh no, that would have been way too sensible. That would have been way too sensible. Approach people, get a mentor, maybe do an internship. No, just horse blinkers, ask a band, do it for free, figure out if I'm any good, set up a little, not even a little business, just like a trading name. It was kind of just, right, diving in at the deep end, hoping for the best. Lots of trial and error and lots of, I wouldn't say, failed attempts, but a lot of artists that maybe didn't work out because I was still learning and growing and they were learning and growing. It was maybe their first band and it was all, kind of localized stuff. So yeah, it took a long time. And again, knowing what I know now versus me 8 years ago starting, I could advise myself to probably be in this position in 3 years rather than 8.
Right.
Again, that's one of those things, going back to the kind of getting it wrong and learning from your mistakes. I've still made a ton of mistakes in the lead up to now. And again, if I could go back and change some things, I probably would in that respect, not like the grand, the grander picture, but I definitely could have fast tracked myself, managed my younger self or my, my past self. But yeah, no, it was definitely trial by fire in terms of learning the industry world and networking and meeting people and figuring out how to kind of get the attention of those, back then I used to call, the gatekeepers, the agents, the other managers, the labels, how do I get a reply from these people? But again, it's one of those, it's a learning process. It's a growing process. You have to earn the trust and the reputation, and that takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. But yeah, it's definitely been learning, and probably could have done it in a much more sensible way. But we're here now. Everything's good, and we're enjoying it. We're enjoying ourselves, which I think is the main thing.
Hindsight's a virtue, as they say.
Oh yeah, yeah, big one.
Yeah. So you take this first band on, and just to kind of, well, your first experience really with this first band, and then what was kind of the process from when you kind of started getting legs, like building this roster? How did you then think, right, well, I'm now competent enough to maybe take on a second band or a third band and kind of go from there? What was kind of the process to kind of bring in these extra names to work with?
A lot of it was collaboration, to be honest. I think once I had the first band, and again, it was like a local band, just kind of guinea pigs, did some work. But I think we put out an EP and managed to get some Radio 1 play, and they put them on a couple of, small like weekend run tours and stuff, and was really enjoying it. And again, during my process of making friends with other young managers and agents and, people out in the industry trying to find their way, to me, it made logical sense to collaborate with other people that were trying to do the same thing. So I partnered up with someone who's a good friend, but we don't work together anymore, but we did for a few years. Partnered up with a guy, I'm going to shout him out, Matt Clark. I don't know if you know him. He's originally from Manchester. He ended up signing Stand Atlantic. And that was kind of the company's jumping off point. And again, that was purely, he'd put on some shows for me. I always thought he was, super reliable, really hardworking, young, hungry, hopefully similar kind of vein to myself. And we hit it off. We worked together for quite a few years, and we collaborated on stuff, really helped each other out, grew up, I guess, the name a little bit. He took on Stat, and then from that, I ended up taking on Yours Truly. And from there, it just kind of not exploded, but it really grew at a much faster rate, I think, once we had the two of us working together. And yeah, I definitely don't underestimate the power of collaboration. Yeah. I think for a few years trying to do it on my own, really fighting uphill, doing what I can, being quite isolated, I guess, in terms of, working from a home office, not speaking to too many people, just kind of doing my best and living in my own little bubble, versus collaborating with Matt and then, getting to meet his contacts and me giving him my contacts. And between the two of us, it was, double the growth and double the time. And, we're both doing all right now.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's like, I think it's with any role in the music industry, like networking is so important. Like, not even just like, you don't have to go as far as collaborating if you don't want to, but you have to meet people, you have to make friends with people, you have to work alongside them in some capacity.
Yeah. And I think that's something I preach now, like majorly. And personally, I still think that's one of the things I need to work on more is being more communicative and making the effort to go to more events and catch up with people, even though, we are busy and we're doing a lot. Making the time to really connect with people, even if it is just going to festivals or going to shows in your local area, just seeing what people are doing and really connecting and building those friendships and relationships. If I could go back and tell myself that, like, you will get 10 times further, 10 times quicker if you just reach out to people and ask them for a Zoom, for a coffee, to go to a gig together, whatever, no matter what level of position they're in, because, this world's crazy. You never know where people are going to end up. Just really spending and investing a lot of time in, communicating and growing friendships and, helping people out for, I guess, no instant return or, for any reason other than just to be a good person goes a really, really long way in this industry. I hate using that it's who term, but to an extent, I think if you're a good person doing it for the right reasons, it kind of is a little bit, without making it that kind of, it's just a who industry.
Yeah.
That only gets you so far, but it definitely helps if, you have those good relationships with other people.
Yeah, it's not like the main priority and necessity to succeed, but you need that to, like you say, make things work a bit faster, a bit more fluid, because people out there can help you and other people out there will know things that you don't, and vice versa.
Well, that's it. And again, I'm a huge advocate for it. I was over at a conference earlier this year in Philadelphia, and one of the biggest things, a lot of young managers or young agents and people will come up to me like, what's one piece of advice? What would it be? I was like, meet people, do more of this. reach out to people, offer for Zooms, coffees, take a trip to LA, London, New York, wherever it is, and just book meetings with no other reason than just to get to know people. You will grow and develop so much further when you get FaceTime in with people. It is, for me, it's the biggest thing, aside from having, like an amazing band with a great work ethic and, all of that stuff and working hard with the artist. It's a relationships game.
So the business started as kind of like artist management to begin with. Yeah. And then at what point did it begin to evolve? And then did you expand into publishing first? Or is that kind of still going on in the background a little bit?
Yeah, so that's being finalized. But yeah, so going through COVID, we, again, not by choice, we just found ourselves with a lot of our bands on the management side coming out of their deals, finishing deals, someone in, the best place with the label, be that, relationship wise, or the deal they'd initially signed a long time ago, maybe before we came along, or they've outgrown it, or, whatever reason. And we ended up with a pool of artists kind of asking us the question, well, what do we do? Do we go sign another deal and then end up in a similar kind of position? Do we start our own label? Do we do just plain distro? How are we going to look to build our own careers long-term as a business? So that kind of, they kind of batted the question back to us, and we had a couple of internal meetings, and I took the news of what we had over to my friend Ben over at the Orchard, and we ended up, just by me asking him a question, we ended up doing a deal direct with the Orchard, initially to service a lot of our own artists, to kind of give them that label support that they still needed, even though they didn't want to be directly a part of, one of these bigger labels, and they wanted to build out their own thing. And we had so much fun doing it and being creative and having full control, and the artist choosing, everything, and just really diving in and focusing on exactly what they wanted and needed, that, I heard a few more people, and we just decided, hey, let's do this for other bands, but in a full label capacity. Let's start building something out that can, maybe not right now, but in the next couple of years, rival some of those bigger alternative labels that are doing so well. And we honestly, we haven't looked back. It's been so much fun. It's definitely, it's been a learning curve again, making the mistakes, learning from it. But yeah, it's definitely a really cool journey that I didn't foresee. I thought my future was just purely in management, but we really are enjoying the label, and it's expanding, it's growing. We've got some more artists coming in. We did our first roster announcement at the beginning of this month, and there'll be more to come. Yeah, and hopefully it continues to grow, because it's really, really enjoyable, right, working with artists, not just on the micro level, but on the macro level, just being kind of the overseer and giving them tasks to do and just letting them go and get on with it, or, speaking with their managers and giving away a little bit of responsibility, but helping so much more on the creative side, and, offering some of the services that maybe other, younger developing artists don't get the chance to have.
For people listening who, don't really know what that kind of means on a music industry level, what is publishing in the music industry? How would you explain that?
Publishing? Oh, God. Publishing can be a minefield. It's again, that's another whole kind of learning experience itself. But it essentially, publishing is songwriting and performance royalties that are separate to the sale of music and catalog. So, whenever an artist writes a song and that song is played on the radio or played in a public space, or it's even streamed or bought, a separate songwriting royalty will be generated from the sale of that music. And a publisher collects that and passes it on to the artist. You also have your performing rights societies, which take half of that, and then the publisher will take the other half. There's this big diagram, but essentially there's like five streams of publishing royalties, with, to an extent, can be generated. And it's something I never knew about when I was in a band and when I signed to a label, and I probably missed out on not, stupid money, but a chunk of money that was owed to me, because I had a percentage in all of the tracks that, my band wrote and produced, and we had on the radio and streamed and bought CDs and all the rest of it. And again, it was another one of those things like, hey, more people need to know about this, because I feel, although there are a lot of companies out there doing it, people don't know about it enough. It almost is the other side to just selling music. There's a whole, I have artists on our management roster that purely live off their publishing royalties. They do so well because of they've been involved in songwriting, not just for their own bands, but for other artists, that they're not going to say the amount, but they're pulling in enough to comfortably live off easily without question. They don't need to work for the rest of their lives. They're set. And again, it's just something that's so integral to the artist, and it's theirs. They deserve it. They need it. So the reason behind us setting up the publishing arm was to, administer that, go collect those royalties for the artists at, the lowest cost or commission base that we could, and pass the rest on because they deserve it. They need it. Again, something I wish I had when I was back being in a band.
Yeah, like you say, it's not really mentioned very much, and it's, for some artists, it's so important, and they could potentially live off of it, or at least make their lives a lot more comfortable off of it.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, there's some artists we've taken on during the middle of the career or towards the end of their career, and the first question I always ask is, who's doing your publishing, who's collecting your royalties? And sometimes you'll be surprised that big bands are like, I don't know, and they've lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
We took on a band beginning of last year, and that was the first question. They've sold 1 million records, and it was a case of like, cool, who's doing your publishing? And they were like, I don't know. So that was the first thing I did, even though they'd missed out on 10, 12 years of publishing. It's after 18 or 22 months, the royalty's gone forever. That royalty's generated, and if it's not collected, the Performing Rights Society just gets to keep it. So there's probably a whole load of money that's just being generated and not claimed. And one of the bands we were working with had that, and it's devastating to hear that, and then you explain it to the band and they're like, what? And then it also falls on the onus of their previous management. Why weren't they doing that?
Yeah.
It's such an important income stream for the band, and they're not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Any bands listening, sort your publishing out now.
Yeah. Even if it's not us, like, hit me up. We do super fair, super low commission publishing deals. But even if it's just something like a Song Trust or a Centric, just go get someone to administer your publishing. It may not be a lot now, but if you have, in this generation, a TikTok hit and a song goes viral, you're laughing. There's a lot of money generated by songwriting and performance royalties.
So I think you mentioned a little earlier in the conversation, is it Passionate Records, kind of like the label side that you're delving into a little bit more now? I mean, you've got some great artists on there already. You've got Days to Waste, which is kind of like a emo-y, alt kind of thing, like kind of Nothing Nowhere and stuff. And then you've got like Eat Your Heart Out, which is kind of pop punk, pop rock. Talk to me more about how that label thing started to come to fruition. Like, what's the goal there?
I mean, the goal long term is to rival, I guess, rub shoulders with those other big independent alternative labels that are doing so well that everyone loves and cherishes, and we want to do that. But hopefully, I don't know what labels are offering in terms of deals now, but I mean, comparing, what we want to offer compared to what they offered some of our artists, 4 or 5 years ago, we'd like to think we're much more artist friendly. I've always been an advocate that, we are not here without artists and artists making good music. I wouldn't have a job if I didn't have bands to manage or records to release or, songwriting to kind of administer. So why are labels and everyone else taking such a huge cut? It just baffles my mind. Back in the day, I signed a 12% deal with Victory Records, and it's like, I'm never going to see a penny from the music I made. I'm never going to see a penny, and I'm going to owe that label a lot of money for the rest of my life. I know they've been bought out by someone, but the balance sheet is still in the negative, and we just don't want that. We think we can help build careers for artists fairly, and that's why we're doing it. It is fun. It does pay the bills. I think when you do well, everyone wins, and that's how we want to do it. It's like if you eat, we eat. If you don't, like, it is what it is. We all tried our best and we had the best time doing it, but ultimately we're not here without the artist. We can't go to the shows. We can't listen to music in the car. We can't listen to the radio. We can't, I don't know what I'd do without music. And I really appreciate the time and effort it takes for artists to create it. And to me, it's only fair to do fair deals. It boggles my mind that it doesn't happen still. You know what I mean? And, I'll put my hand up, when I was getting involved in this industry, I did some of those bad deals. Because again, it's that foot up in the industry. It's learning it all and being told that this is the right thing to do and the good thing. And some of those bands that are on our roster label roster now are out of bad deals, or for example, Dave's to Waste, he turned down a multitude of really big labels to work with us because he felt that connection, and that's what we wanted to do, build that connection and do that super fair artist deal. And fortunately he's here and I'm obsessed with him. So but yeah, that's kind of why we do it. It stems back to those artists we had coming out of their deals and not knowing where to turn. And it was like, well, hey, there's almost its own market here. Like let's utilize it in the best and fairest way we can.
Well, yeah, you make a good point. Like, obviously hosting the label, you need to make money to survive, but at the same time the artist needs to not only survive but thrive, because if they aren't on the label, then there is no label.
Yeah, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, for sure. We need to make sure we're making enough money to invest and help grow the artist, but also we need to make sure the artist is building a career and is actually earning money as soon as they can. And that's our aim. And I know the label's only been out working for a month, but we've been doing it for a year behind the scenes, and touch wood, so far so good. And we've got more artists on the way and a few more that we're speaking to. And again, we've just had a conversation with another really cool band that have turned down another big deal to come sign with us. So hopefully this is a bit of a change for everyone, not just us, and everyone gets that wave across the industry where things are a lot fairer.
Definitely. So speaking of labels, you worked with Rude Records for a little bit as well. I think you were like international relations.
Yeah. So I did a year with them during COVID. I was head of international relations. So being very much that kind of networking, communicative person, catching up with people, I guess like connecting people. I was connecting the dots. It's probably the best way to describe it. Trying to help their artists get agencies and bigger tours and be more creative and put them in touch with producers and songwriters and do kind of a management role within the label. And that was really fun. And I think that taught me a lot about the label world. That, again, one of those, learning situations that now we're here with Passionate and we're doing it ourselves. I'm using a lot of what I learned working with them for the year, and integrating certain things into what we're doing. But yeah, that was so fun. I remember, I've been friends with a lot of the guys in the owner Illich for many a year. And I just hit him up one day and was like, hey man, have you ever thought about like expanding outside of, your office in Milan? Would love to be involved. I think I can connect a few dots and really, really help you kind of grow outside of Europe. And he flew me out to Milan like the next week, and we went out for dinner and we got really drunk in Milan and ate pizza, and it was such a great time. And it just went from there. It was just so natural just to kind of fit in and get to meet those people. And yeah, we did it for a year, and then obviously we did it during COVID, and it didn't work out for whatever reason because the world shut down and things were difficult. But it was such a fun time, and it was really great to pick his brain and learn a lot about the label world through those guys who've been doing it for so many years and will continue to do so for a lot. I don't doubt it.
So you're taking some of that experience with Rude Records into this business of yours, and did you learn much Italian as well?
Yeah, funnily enough, I met Illich at a wedding in Italy from another Italian friend I have. So over the years, I've tried to learn a little bit. We had family lessons when I was growing up. Every Saturday we went and sat with Fiorella Smith, and she taught us, basic Italian phrases that we could take on holiday and learn and stuff. So yeah, I tried my best. Especially when I was working at the label, tried to send them emails in Italian or take meetings in Italian. But the one thing they didn't tell me is, and I'm not sure if you know, but Italy has 21 tenses. So when you're talking in an Italian language, you have to know which tense you're talking in. And there's 21. Not like us who have 3, past, present, future. They have 21. So yeah, was constantly getting things wrong, but I think they just appreciated the effort. But yeah, Pigeon Italian gets by. I can order tea, coffee, say thank you.
That's crazy, isn't it? Like, I know English isn't meant to be the easiest language in the world, but like you say, we've got 3 tenses, and I think, is it Japan that's got like 3 or 4 alphabets? I might be wrong on that, but
I don't know. I'll ask a friend who speaks Japanese, but yeah, no, I think it's definitely something we should invest more time in. everyone should learn a second language. I'm guilty for giving up trying to learn Italian.
Yeah.
I definitely want to pick it up at some point. But yeah.
I did do Spanish a little bit in school, and I tried to kind of pick it up with Duolingo, but I just keep forgetting to go back to it. But I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, same.
So the business today, what does it kind of look like? I guess every day is different, but generally speaking, day to day, what does it kind of look like for you nowadays?
That's tough. I guess it depends what cycle our artists are in, whether they're writing a new record, whether the record is done and we're planning release, whether they're out on tour, they're mid-cycle, maybe they've just finished it and they want to take some time off. It's very dependent, our day to day, on what our artists are doing, but also at the same time, all of our artists are in different places. We have Between You and Me, who are over in Melbourne, Australia. They've just finished a new EP. So we're working on plotting that around a whole load of touring for next year. So a lot of my time at the moment is spent on, working with our agents on routing tours and picking supports and, making sure they're earning enough money and we're not losing money on any kind of headline tours, and figuring out travel plans and logistics and partnerships with merch companies in the US and over here in Australia and a whole host of things. So, we do a lot of that kind of stuff. And then we have some bands on our label, for example, who are trying to get back into the swing of writing. So, we're having conversations with producers or, songwriters, or, even just booking them studio time in kind of their local city, or figuring out whether to fly them over and, trying to do a 12 to 18 month kind of map of how we take the steps to get them to the point where we can, release the music and what that's going to look like and what that's going to entail. So every day's different. It always comes with its challenges. You might have, an itinerary of 10 things you want to get done today, and then you get one email that changes the course of your week, that kind of makes you pivot and have to figure something out for good or for bad, or, for whatever reason. I mean, a good example is Between You and Me. We're figuring out a bunch of stuff at the moment. They start their sold out headline tour tomorrow. And, we thought they were home for November, December. We've had 2 tour offers come in the last month that has not derailed, but definitely kind of stopped us in our tracks and made us think and budget and figure out if we can do some stuff. So yeah, it's always changing. It's never a set thing. Like, you think you've got your plan, or you think you've got your strategy, and something happens and it can completely change it. So it's definitely days of, being proactive and figuring a lot of things out, but then also adapting and learning and doing things on the fly, because, if you get a big festival offer or a big support tour or a sync or a brand partnership come in, you might have to completely, rethink your strategy on the next, 6-9 months or whatever it is. So yeah, never a straightforward answer, which is, I guess, part of the reason why I love it so much, because it isn't monotonous in any way. Every day is different. It has its different and unique set of challenges, and every artist wants something and needs something different, but it's fun.
Would you say the workload has got easier or harder or just different over the years? Because obviously when you started out, it was just you. Now you've got kind of like a team behind you as well. And I guess they're, you kind of delegated certain roles to them that maybe you were doing originally.
Yeah. There was definitely some teething issues on my part. When you get to a point where you're so busy, but it's trying to figure out and I guess doing an internal business plan of finding out when the right time is to bring other people in to help, but also making sure that you're not taking on too much that you can't do enough for all of your artists. I think there's a really fine line there. And I definitely trod that a bit treacherously at times. Definitely burnt myself out, was doing a lot of hours. And, sometimes you just have to not bite the bullet, but, fast track a few things and make sure you get the help you need. And, I've been super fortunate to be graced with some wonderful, colleagues and staff members that just make my life so much easier. We had an evening out with a couple of them last night, and yeah, just spending time with them, like person to person, it really hits home when, they're talking about things that they've done that you've maybe forgotten, or, you asked them to do something a week ago and they've gone and done it and they've come back. And yeah, it's amazing to have. I don't think I realized how much I needed them until they were here. Yeah, it's been a wonderful experience, but on the flip side of that, it was also initially for me very difficult to let go, because I was so used to relying on myself, doing it all. And I know if I need to do something, I'll do it and it will get done. Having that, not risk, but that kind of worry in the back of my mind, like, are they going to be all right? Is it get done? Should I just do it anyway, just so I know it's done? But that's been a bit of a learning process for me, definitely. But now it's definitely got to a point where they probably hassle me for things more than I hassle them for things, which is ultimately, you know, to an extent where I want to be, you know, where they're going, I've done this thing, like, here's the feedback, what do you want to do? Or have you done this yet? Because I can't do my thing till you've done this. So it's taken a minute to kind of get that routine and get that cohesion going. But now that they're here, I can't live without them.
Yeah. I guess, like you said, there's the initial fear of, if you've been doing something for so long, you know how it's done, and you know if you do it, it will be done the way you want it to be. And then it's kind of like, what if they don't quite do it right, and then they're not actually saving me time? I've got to go and fix it myself and stuff like that. So I definitely get that. Yeah.
But, you know, on the flip side of that, and again, you know, I've had that a few times where it's been like, if I did it, it would have been quicker, or now I've got to sit down and teach them or work through this thing with them and mentor them, I guess, to an extent with certain situations. But again, going back to our earlier conversations, like, if they don't get it wrong, they don't learn.
Exactly.
And I don't learn because I've let them get it wrong, you know. So it's a big learning curve for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think going through those things, because again, you know, nobody can stop everything from going wrong. Like, nobody's perfect, nobody's going to get it right all the time. And you know, having those, not issues, but, you know, having those instances where things maybe don't work out the quickest or in the best way the first time, I know now that because that's happened, they're fine, and I can let them get on with it and do it. And they know, like, if something's really gone wrong or they need advice or whatever, they'll just phone me. I'll pick up at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big thing initially, just being like, it's there and I can see it. I'll just do it.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I get that when, like, I'm doing, I guess, like, even when you're back in school and they want you to do like a group assignment, I'm just kind of like, I know if I just do it, I know it'll be fine.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just a doer.
Yeah.
I like to be busy. Even if it's just monotonous stuff like the washing up. It's like, no, I'll just do it. Just leave me to do it. It's done then. I know it's done, and it's something I can cross off in my mind.
What advice would you give to bands and artists who are maybe contemplating getting a manager on board to kind of help them in that kind of aspect of things?
Really think about whether you're in the position where you need it. I think for me, I get a lot of, our company, we get a lot of submissions on the label side, on the management side as well, from a lot of artists who are probably way too early in their career to be needing help with things. It's for me, you know, when I was in a band, and I think for a lot of the bands that we've kind of are working with, have taken on over the years, have got to a point where they either feel out of their depth because so much is going on and they don't know how to handle it, or there's certain, you know, I don't know, people like agents or labels or publishing companies, they're getting a lot of interest from bigger outside, you know, entities, and they don't know how to navigate the conversations or look at a deal or, you know, build the team that's best for them, or just be so busy, you know, doing it the DIY way, they don't have time to think about the creative anymore. And for us, that's when we feel it's best to, you know, step in when the artist has built a bit of an audience. Their socials are doing really well. There's people, you know, we say sniffing around, you know, there's people taking a look in, asking questions. There's a bit of, I guess, for lack of a better term, buzz. You know, even just on like a local level, when, you know, other artists are talking about them and they're getting all these offers for shows and tours and small festivals and things. And it can almost be a bit overwhelming for them. So for me, it's always like, get to a point where you feel uncomfortable, not uncomfortable, but I don't know the correct word or the correct term, but, you know, get to a point where, you know, maybe you've never really been before and it's exciting and it's a lot of work, but, you know, you could do with that mentorship or someone to steer the ship to help you with your career in the best way possible, in the way that, you know, you need.
Yeah. And what would you say in terms of advice for people who are listening, who are interested in potentially going into artist management themselves? Like, where should they start? What are kind of like the first steps they should take?
I mean, it's tough because everybody's different. Some people do courses. I think they might do, some college or uni things. There's definitely some schemes through places like the MMF. I've definitely spent some time over in that side of the industry. But for me, it just go and do it. A lot of people think about it and then they and ah, and then they try and maybe apply for things and get a bit disheartened. For me, seeing people just doing it and succeeding and learning along the way is, that's what I did. And I'm not saying it's the only way, but I don't know, like I just enjoyed being hands-on and doing it and learning and using all the experiences I've got in, from any kind of walk of life, from any part of building me as who I am, and just utilizing that to best help the artist, and just being a good person and doing it. It really is just, for me anyway, thinking about it, it's just go and do it. If you want to be an artist manager, go and do it. It's one of the only industries where you don't need a degree to an extent, unless you want to be like an entertainment lawyer or, work, I guess, like in marketing or something. If you want to like manage an artist and you feel like you're organized and you're prompt and, you're good with people and you can hold a conversation and you want to grow and you want to learn, just go and do it. It's one of the only things you can just go and do. Trial it. If it might not be for you, if you hate it, then stop doing it. It's, there's no, I don't know the right term, but you can't get, like, I guess, like with a normal job, you can't just like get fired. You can obviously like part ways with an artist, but it doesn't stop you being an artist manager.
Yeah.
Go do it. Like just try.
Yeah.
You might be really good and you might fall in love with it, and it might not take you 8 years like it took us to get where we are. It might take 2 years. You might find the next, Ed Sheeran or Ariana Grande, or the next My Chemical Romance. Like, who knows? If you find an artist you believe in and you want to help them, go do it.
Yeah. And I guess like you that's what you did, and you learn on the job. And a lot of the industry is learning on the job, I feel.
Yeah. And you'll grow, you'll get things wrong, you'll feel like you're banging your head against the wall at certain points, and it can get disheartening. But if you really want to do it, just go do it. Just make the most of it. Use the experiences, go network, meet people. I mean, my golden rule for this industry and life in general is just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not a dick, you'll do all right.
Yeah. Sound advice.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I do preach, especially when I do conferences and things. It's the, what the one thing, what would you tell someone to go do is go network and go meet people. But what's the other thing? Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
If everyone likes you, you're probably going to go a lot further than someone that doesn't like you. If you're approachable and friendly, but can still get the work done, and, in certain instances when you need to, stand strong and don't take any shit, you'll get a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, definitely. And what about you in terms of yourself and Capital Artists Group? What is the plan for the rest of 2023 and 2024 with the business itself, the roster? How are you intending to evolve things on your end?
There's a lot of things I want to do. Whether we get to do them all in the next 18 months, I don't know. But I definitely, and I'm in talks to take on a staff member over in the US, to have someone on my feet on the ground over there to do a lot of work with our US artists. Definitely want to bring in some more artists on the label side. And I want to get another one of these. I don't know. I know everyone at home won't be able to see behind me, but I want to get another silver disc. That's a thing for the next 18 months. I want to get one on the label side,
right?
Some on the management side. But yeah, I'd love to get one of those discs for one of our label clients. I think that would be really special.
Well, with the roster you've got so far, it sounds manageable to me. Just got to put the work in now.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Crossed. We've got some more stuff in the works. We've got a couple more artists to announce, and we've got a couple more deals out to some other artists we've absolutely fallen in love with. We'll see where it takes us.
Sounds exciting. Thanks very much for talking to me, Daryl. I really appreciate you sharing your story, sharing your experience, and it's been a great chat. Before I let you go, enjoy the rest of your evening and get back to speaking to people on several different time zones. You got any final words? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to plug? The floor's yours.
Go check out our artists, capitalartistgroup.com, passionate.co. Go check out our websites, check out our artists. We're always looking for, new exciting artists to work with in any kind of capacity. If you're looking for publishing, even if it's not through us, go get it done. go collect your songwriting and performance royalties. Big plug. Oh, don't be a dick.
The most important words that have ever been
That's it.
said in this
Golden
conversation.
rule. That's it. But no, thank you for having me. This has been really fun. Take care, buddy.
Yeah, dude.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening. Again, if you enjoyed this or any other episode of the podcast, then please leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to this. If you want to support the podcast further, you can go and give it a follow on social media, pick up something from the merch store, or subscribe to the Patreon to get early access to episodes. All the links can be found at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. Thanks again, hopefully catch you on the next one, and remember, it's not a phase, it's a lifestyle.